We are privileged to have today one of the leading experts on anti-terrorism and countering terrorism. We bring you Marc Provisor of the prestigious One Israel Fund, a non-profit organization that's devoted to the security of the Jewish people who are living in Judea, Samaria, and in the Jordan Valley. Marc is known as the Israeli Rambo, having been involved in over 100 terrorist attacks. And this puts Marc in the unique position of being ahead of the curve of understanding terrorism and countering terrorism. We join Marc now to learn of his experiences in counterterrorism, to understand why Jewish strength and sovereignty is the key to Jewish safety and peace in Israel.
I guess it's like 26 years I'm involved in security, something like that. 25 years, and mostly in preventing terror, which is, I guess you could say, what my specialty became. A lot of my work has to do with beauty and chaos, which is simply the world I live in, dealing with the terror and yet the beauty of our land. I mean, you know, we drive around this heartland of ours, and it's the beauty is mind-boggling. Yet for me also, underneath all of that, I still have to deal with, again, the alternate reality. I've been in over 100 terror attacks. I know the dynamic. I know what happens. I know what people, how they freak out. I know how they're going to freak out. It's not theory. So when I come to the table over there, I'm speaking as someone who has been through it, works with it, and works constantly continuing to do it. Most of the people in the States are, the security officials, they're still seeing things different. And a lot of these people, again, it's theory to them. They'll get a book, oh, we have to do this. Now, a lot of people have it, but what they don't have is true experience. And when I meet with those people and the companies, the various companies I work with, so we put another dimension into the security system. You know, I've sat with a lot of the officials over there, and high-end security officials, governmental, local, and state and federal, and they know what they're doing. But they have a problem in that the laws, people are so afraid of offending someone, where it's mind-blowing. You know, but what do they forget? You go through an airport, you fly in the States, and they're not complaining? So safety applies to an airplane, but not to a bus, not to a mall or whatever. Whereas, of course, those are the soft targets, which eventually they will probably see happening.
Marc, can you explain to us the background of anti-Semitism and how, if any, Jewish sovereignty and the strength of sovereignty affects anti-Semitism, and even what some of the Jews in the diaspora outside of Israel think about sovereignty?
If we look into a little bit of Jewish history, into Europe especially, and obviously after the Jews were thrown out of Israel, Jews were not allowed to own land throughout Europe. What were they told to do? That they had to get into business, they had to deal with live in the cities. They were not really allowed to own land. They had to get into banking and everything. They got into business. And because they had no choice, because this was forced on them. Now all of a sudden you have them where, you know, God forbid that they don't stay at the bottom. People develop, people evolve. And that's what happened. And every time they started evolving or gaining more of this power, if you will, it became a cause for anti-Semitism. And obviously you see it today. Oh, look at them. They're running the banks. They're running the media. They're doing this. You know, this is something that thousands of years the Jews have actually had to stay, unfortunately, in the business. In Egypt, just like you said, they got there. They were shepherds. And instead of staying in poverty or whatever, they developed. The great sin of the Jewish people is that we succeed. Now, a lot of people succeed, but it was always easy to point out that, look at them, they're succeeding. Now you have to look at another side also, because, you know, anti-Semitism is not just unique to a non-Jew. We have Jewish anti-Semites, if you will. I don't like using the word a self-hating Jew. I prefer to call them morons. A lot of diaspora mainstream Judaism, whereas at first they were proud of that because, you know, the underdog won, they're not comfortable with Jews being strong. We walk around here, we're not in the minority. A lot of people don't feel comfortable with that in the diaspora, that we have a country, that we're a strong country. We're not a perfect country, given, but it's interesting, and I find more and more of those that don't necessarily agree with Israel, they have a problem with strength.
Marc, we know that terrorist attacks can happen anywhere in Israel, but it seems that a majority of them are happening in Judea and Samaria. Is there any significance of this, Marc, that we should be able to understand about Jewish sovereignty over Judea and Samaria?
The people who are, first of all, the anti-Semitism regarding Judea and Samaria, I mean, I personally think that's an attack on the people, on the Jewish people. I mean, Judea and Samaria is our seat of history, really. And so the minute you attack our history, you are attacking us. The fact whether people want to start declaring, using words like occupation or whatever, this is spin. This is all spin. What's happening? How to make it sound? How to get it acceptable? Whether in the mainstream or in the media, and I really don't see a difference. I mean, when people are saying to me, "Oh, you shouldn't be occupying this, this, and this," so I usually ask them. I say, "Well, show me a nation that won a war, and that you're asking them to reverse everything."
Based on your proximity and experience in fighting terrorism, where do you see this all going in the future, Marc? That terrorism may diminish, may even stop eventually? Or what may we expect in the future regarding terrorist attacks in Israel and around the world?
No, I think it's definitely the way of the future. I see, there's going to be continued growth in terror because that's just the way things are working right now. It's unfortunate. We're seeing the trend in Europe. Look, Europe is like almost lost. I do travel, and it's not Europe's not coming back. And politicians, again, what does a politician want? He wants to be voted in. And what happens is more and more he needs those voices, and those voices are coming from a lot of the Muslim immigration coming over. We're seeing the trend in Europe. I think that the terrorist organizations right now are still keeping it a little low down regarding the states. I think that because they realize that they're able to accomplish more quietly, especially with funding and so on. You also don't have the same immigration issues that you have as in Europe. Poverty breeds a lot of interesting things. And what I'm watching in Europe, which is very interesting, and even in the States, a little less, but you will have Islamic religious leaders spouting true hatred. Not just hatred, but incitement. And nothing gets done to them. Rarely. And it's amazing. And, because it's taboo to mention Islamic terror or black anti-Semitism. These are issues that you can say white supremacist terrorism, you can say white terror, you can all these other things. But, you spoke about profiling. God forbid I use the word Islamic terror.
My Marc, these are some shocking truths, but it only highlights the fact that something needs to be done. In conclusion, what advice and actions would you recommend to our audience of what we can do to help secure Jewish peace and safety in the Jewish homeland?
So if I had the ear to these people, what I would say is sometimes they're going to have to come out of their comfort zone and really stand up to the violence. Whether if Jersey City, the religious Jews, anybody, I wouldn't say to go to not religious, non-religious, whatever, Jews, Christians, stand up to the violence. Stand up to the violence. If you are into peace, sometimes you have to fight for peace. And that's what I would say. Stand up to it. Don't write a letter. Don't make a Facebook post. Don't go visit your congressman and get them to this and so. Go stand up. Take it out to where it is. Look at it, research it, and make your physical presence known. Virtual presence, whereas it might make people feel good, it has nothing, doesn't have any really long-term tangible effects.
Thank you, Marc, and thank you for joining us here at Return to Israel. We know you have a choice, and we appreciate that you take a few moments to listen to what we have to share with you about the importance of Jewish sovereignty in Israel. And please take Marc's words to heart. Let us work together to help make the Jewish homeland secure for the Jewish people. Thank you, and God bless you.